It couldn't have happened any other way. The son of Steelers legend Joey Porter, Joey Porter Jr., is going to the Pittsburgh Steelers with the 33rd overall pick, the first pick of day 2. I'm Peter Wachowski with Locked On Steelers host Christopher Carter, and this is a fun one. Locked On NFL Draft coverage is presented by Ultimate Football GM. You think you can run an NFL franchise? Visit ultimate-gm.com to play the ultimate NFL GM simulation game. Start your dynasty today. And Chris, Broderick Jones in the first round, now Joey Porter Jr. really seems like 2 first-round picks here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And other than Patrick Peterson, this cornerback room has a lot of questions on it right now.
Certainly. Levi Wallace was solid last year, but you knew you didn't want to have to depend on him too much again this year. Keller Witherspoon, was a guy 2 years ago that they felt confident how he ended the season, and he was getting torched left and right in the middle part of the season last year. But Joey Porter Jr. is a quick add to help solve those problems. He's physical. He's strong. He's big at 6'2", 193, ran a 4.46. Doesn't have great recovery speed, but he's a guy that does a really good job of keeping players in front of him. He had 9 pass breakups. Now, the one hang-up that a lot of Steelers fans are going to have about him is that he had 1 interception, saying he has no ball skills. But I think if you watch his tape enough, you see it's not that he couldn't catch the ball or he couldn't locate the ball. Just people weren't throwing his way that much. He allowed 15 receptions on 30 targets last year. 30 targets. You look at Deonte Banks, and it's like double that amount of targets on the season. People weren't going his way. Like when Ohio State was going up against Penn State this year, they had Marvin Harrison Jr. and they had their receiving threats that they have all over the field with C.J. Stroud. They targeted Porter twice the entire game because they were staying away from him. And the Steelers, they love physical corners. They love the mentality, but we also know they love guys who know the process of the NFL. And to be clear, this isn't just, Joey Porter Jr. Joey Porter was a player for the Steelers, yes, but he was also a coach. And, there were days at Steelers training camp when he was a coach, when 12-year-old Joey Porter Jr. would come to camp and try to guard Antonio Brown in training camp and kind of joke around, and people would kind of watching that kid work. So it's kind of a storybook continued story here for him to move forward, be selected by the Pittsburgh Steelers, come back to where he played high school ball, a kid that Mike Tomlin used to watch play high school ball in the same area where his kids played ball. So a huge opportunity for them. And like you said earlier, they got Broderick Jones earlier. Pete, we talked about the potential of the Steelers getting either or of guys who we thought were a top 3 corner or a top 3 offensive tackle in this class. Broderick Jones was my top offensive tackle. Joey Porter was my number 3 corner. I never dreamed that they would get both of them somehow in this draft class.
So this is a player who we saw him go up against Marvin Harrison Jr. We saw him go up against Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. I thought he played really well against Garrett Wilson, by the way, 2 years ago. I remember writing that in my notes when I was studying Garrett Wilson. Is he someone that you think is going to come in right away and compete to start on the boundary for Pittsburgh?
I think so. I think he's going to be a person that they're willing to plug in there, especially against some of the Bengals receivers that you see. They want a guy who's going to disrupt you at the line. They want a guy who's man, bump and run, make it happen, and get them off of their timing. And because, again, the Steelers game is still going to be getting after the quarterback. They still have TJ Watt. They still have Cam Hayward. Alex Highsmith had double-digit sacks last year. So if you can just slow down the receivers from getting into their routes, that could be all that those pass rushers need to get the pressure on some of the other teams that they need to beat, like the Ravens, like the Browns, like the Bengals and the AFC North. So to me, adding Joey Porter Jr. on the outside, it is a big chance to get that ad and to now say, hey, you got a young player in the cornerback room. You got all these older vets. Patrick Peterson, I think, will be solid. I think Levi Wallace will be solid. Joey Porter Jr. has the chance to come in, learn from Patrick Peterson for a year or two, and then eventually step into the full-time number 1 role down the line. So to me, this is a win of a pick for the Steelers. We still got to see how he and Broderick pan out. But again, in the pre-draft process, the hope was that the Steelers could get one of these guys. Somehow they got both.
It is going to be fun to watch Joey Porter Jr. play in the exact same uniform his dad played in for so long. Chris, this has been great. Thank you so much. Find Locked On Steelers on YouTube or wherever you find podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.